Good evening. We'll call the March 27th, 2019 LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. If everybody please stand for the pledge. Scott, will you do the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mary Jane.
Randy Novak.
Here.
Joe Core.
Here.
Dr. Cora.
Present.
Terry Larson.
Here.
Scott Cooley.
Here.
Michael Mollenauer. Michael Rosenbaum.
Present.
Rhonda Spence. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval, has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? Or do they need an approval for the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the agenda. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comment is now open. Public comment is now open. Hearing none, public comment is closed. Next item on the agenda is communications. Mary Jane?
Mr. President, you have no communications this month.
That's not a very nice thing to say. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next item is the treasurer's report. Should be attached.
The treasurer's report is attached to your packets, and then there is this snapshot, which is a listing of all your contracts and balances. The treasurer's report from the county auditor and your snapshot reconciled, so they are reconciled. Pretty exciting. I'll give you the balances if you want.
Give us the balances just so that everybody on TV land can see it.
KIP TIF is the balance is 127,762.06. The I-94 421 TIF, the balance is 194,677.27. Allocation area number 2, the balance is not available. 39 North TIF, the balance is 54,338.94.
Right. Thank you. Is there any questions on the financial report? Can I have a motion to accept that?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is claims. First item A is consideration payment for Thomas and Associates in the amount of $1,036.75.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item B, consideration payments for Friedman and Associates, $1,500 for March legal fees.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item is consideration payment for the Herald Argus for $56.84 for legal notices.
Motion to approve. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm going to take one of those as a second.
I'll take a second. Yeah.
Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you. Next item D, consideration payment for MCR Partners, $3,000 for March professional services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and MCR's
Matt.
Mr. Rear, just
Yeah.
if anybody didn't know. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Just one question real quick, so the newcomer, just so you make sure you understand, you see where that's coming out of the TIF areas? You'll see that as you go through here, so.
Yeah, separately.
Yeah.
There's different payments come out of different tips.
Right.
Yeah. Item E, consideration payment for Drayden, BG, Sergio, and Elliott. The amount of, what's that?
Motion to approve and tell them to send just one name next time.
700, yeah. 700, it's an amount of $726.25. We have A motion and a
to
second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, consider payment for Harold Argus in the amount of $63.72 and $41.52 for public notice, and this would be for the I-94 421 TIF.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. And just so that everybody knows, if you hear we're paying the Harold Argus and then we're paying them again, or we pay somebody again, it's because we're paying them out of different tips. As Joe stated, same thing with the Harold Argus. If we're advertising something in the KIP TIF, we have to pay it out of the KIP TIF. It has to be paid out of the TIF that it comes out of. Item G, consideration payment for Thomas & Associates of $1,036 professional services for the I-94 421.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item H, consider payment for RQAW in the amount of $40,426.25 for engineering services for the I-94 421 TIF.
Question on this. Matt, could you give us a rundown where we're at with RQAW before we approve this one?
This should be the close to the, I shouldn't say close to the last. It should be
Close to
about
the end.
close to the end. Actually, they're probably 95% done on the sanitary, and water is done. So they should be actually pretty well wrapped up.
What was the balance, Mary Jane? Mary Jane we talked the other day.
The contract amount is $438,350. Percent complete as of this payment is $89.77, and your total billed to date, including today, is $393,504.25.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second, but I have a question. I thought we were at an all-stop at the last meeting.
This is for work that's
So this is
done.
work that was
They're not-
already done.
Yeah.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure we said that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mike, this
for
billing
asking.
is end of February 28th.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other questions? That was a good question, Mike.
Yeah, it was.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Consideration payment for MCR Partners, $2,000 for March professional services from the I-94 421.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Item J, consider payment for Drayden BG
Cerugo.
Cerugo.
I like it better the way I did it. Elliott, in the amount of $140 and $726.25 legal fees for the I-94 421 TIF.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Consideration of payment for MCR Partners, $1,000 March professional services from the 39 North TIF.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Old business. Construction planning committee update. Mr. Reardon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Rail Committee came together just a few minutes ago to talk about the Kingsbury Industrial Park request for proposals for a switching operator at the location. The county received 2 respondents for that. The committee will be coming together before the next scheduled meeting to thoroughly review both responses and to also do some more outreach to the existing property owners and potential participants in a switching operation at the location. So it was good that we got some responses. I would like to have gotten more, but one of the respondents, South Shore Freight, has current access to the park. The other respondent does this all over the country and has 50 different operations and contacts in with all of the major carriers. So that was good. And we're hoping to probably meet with both groups at some point in time and come back with a recommendation to the body and to continue to explore the direct connections to CSX and CN and impacts to the landowners therein.
Great. Next item on the agenda is 421 I-94 project update.
As Mike mentioned, we're at full stop. We are. That doesn't mean we've stopped. We've been in conversation with Vladimir Gans, who's here today, to talk a little bit about from the developer side where they're at. We wanted to make sure that we've done what we had to do. So there were some outstanding items necessary to move forward once they're able to sort out their issues with the underlying pipeline company, Transcan. As I mentioned earlier, our QAW is done with primarily the design. We have one other action necessary. There's a group, Valero, that will make sure that they're going to do quality assurance, quality control on the plan sets, and because of how it was structured. So we just need to follow through with that. The other thing that was completed is the outreach to all the property owners, the appraisals, and all that's done. BG's ready to send out those letters, so we don't need a consultant to do that when we have Doug to do that. I mean, he was involved in that anyway, so we have all that data that's been prepared, the right-of-way easements to the property owners, what's going to be fee simple title, what's going to be an easement, and who's going to donate the easement and who doesn't want to. So that I also understand that there's certainly has been other interest in the 421-94 area, unrelated to the extension of the utilities was a hotel development. And then the other project related to the utilities has to do with the distribution facility on the southeast corner. But we don't put the utilities, well, I shouldn't say we. If the utilities aren't ever installed, it's not going to grow. So I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, we also should recognize that same pipeline goes through the southeast property.
Yes, it does.
Also.
Yeah, the fund continues to the north. Comes across the other property. Yeah, and if the commissioners will indulge me, I'd like Vladimir to come up and just so you can hear from their perspective where they're at and what's going on.
Absolutely.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Vladimir Gans, 421 Partners. So as an update, first off, when it comes to the wetlands, we've got that all sorted out with the Army Corps. It went to a public notice, and so now it's just filling out the paperwork. So that element, we've crossed that bridge. The other element is obviously, as you know, the pipeline. Yeah. And with the Trans-Canada pipeline just coming up with an arbitrary number, essentially in all the in the deeds and the easements, it basically says when you want to do something, just reach out to Trans-Canada and they'll tell you what your next step is. In this situation, they just sent out a letter. Oh, it's $5.5 million. Where they come up with that via engineering or how they're going to do, it's just a number in a letter and that's it. So we've hired Jeff Jacob out of Indianapolis with Hackman Hewlett, and he's done a lot of work in this field. So the first goal is to tackle them and find out have they pulled any permits or had any inquiries regarding having to replace that line because of the age of the line. And then he's diving into the research on what they can and cannot do, and then ultimately come to some negotiating factor. The fact is, we've talked to engineers, you simply bridge over the top of this line, whether it's old, it's a concrete slab, but it's like a little bridge underground, you can't even see it, and no way crosses it. So we've got them, and I'm hoping by the April meeting that I can have a lot more answers, but we're moving 100% forward on our end to make this happen. Loves has got stupid money into this project for engineering and everything they've done. So we might just need a little bit of time, let's say over the next 60, 90 days to cross this bridge, but we will cross it.
So at this point, we don't need to worry that the project's over, right?
No. We're committed to it.
Good news. Thank you for
that.
We're
moving forward, and I'll keep you updated
Could
every
you come
month.
back to our redevelopment commission each month, even if it's just a little bit?
Of course I will.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else on that, Matt? Or is that?
Not 421 and 94.
All right. Next item, examination of newly updated responsible bidder provision for the RDC attorney.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the commission, as I indicated, rather than the RDC having to adopt its own RBO, if you make a motion on the record simply indicating that this board is aware of the newly adopted RBO by the county commissioners, which eliminated that bid credit for local hiring clause, which was not considered consistent with Indiana law. The rest of it is absolutely valid and enforceable, and your motion would simply recognize the existence of the ordinance and indicate that the Redevelopment Commission would adhere to the provisions of it. That should suffice.
You heard it. Is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Further consideration of KIP Economic Development Strategy, Matt Reardon. You know, if they lump things together, you wouldn't have to sit down.
So we've had several meetings in person and on the phone with various property owners at KIP, and I think it's a story that's pretty common. Gee, this place would be great if we could just connect the rail. So we just asked those people who wanted to connect the rail to provide us technical documents to help us do that. And they're in process of doing that. So I have some cost estimates from an owner to connect the CSX, and I have the owner at the other end working on the engineering documents to provide us the easements and cost to connect to CN. The IEDC is well aware of the activities, as I had mentioned at the rail meeting earlier, and there's a developer from Chicago, and they've taken an active interest in the site. I've talked to them a couple of times. Mr. Rodriguez has been involved in those discussions to a certain extent. I've heard this a lot of times in 25 years. Gee whiz, we're ready to get going. And I said, okay, we'll get going. And I said, tell us what we have to do or what we can do so that you can execute your options on the property and move forward. And that's where it's left with this Chicago entity. And that's where we stand with that right now.
Great. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Thank you, Matt. Next item, new business, consideration of annual report of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission for fiscal year ending December 31st.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to cover 39 North while I'm standing up here.
Okay. Matt, tell us about 39 North.
Well, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. We were challenged about what would be available for development out there regarding to make sure we had the appropriate fire safety and suppression. And Mr. Radke spent some time with us and put together some information about some processes that they're looking to do as the 39 North Conservancy District to create dry hydrants, as well as utilizing the pond for direct sprinkling of the proposed senior living facility. So we don't have any of that final documentation yet. I know that's an issue that everybody wants to make sure we get right, not only for any new development, but the existing. So I know that Mr. Radke continues to work with 39 North and in those capacities. So that's where we stand. But I'd hate to push away from the table from a $10-12 million investment because we find out stuff gets hard. There's no reason to do that, in my view.
Time for us to work harder, buddy. Real quick, as long as you're talking about 39 Conservative District, did we ever get our signage out there that we paid for? Those signage done and installed? That's a long time ago, but I just want
I have to ask Mitch. I know that we had to get easements from the highway.
Really? Oh,
I
okay.
was going to say, Mitch is the one that...
Yeah, we had to get easements from the highway. On another note, though, the sign to the Kingsbury Industrial Park, which is going on other people's property, the one sign will be installed. Not 6 or 4 times the budget. One sign within the budget. The big monument sign.
Tony, could you follow through and let us know maybe next meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. President, just a housekeeping matter. You're probably going to want to go back, and if it is the inclination of the board, there is a paragraph at the end of Matt's proposed economic strategy, and if that is the sense of the body, then you'll want to adopt that. He's got, as you saw, it was a suggested incentive policy, and I think you had an opportunity to review it, and so it's probably good to have some discussion and potentially adopt it as the incentive policy of the board if that's your pleasure.
I'll make a motion we adopt this policy.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Has everybody had a chance to read it? I think
Can Mac summarize?
Let's ensure where we are.
either that or can we, some of the members haven't read it, so I mean, either that or we hold it over to the next.
In summary, what it does is it makes the utilization of tax increment financing and the recommendations to utilize the powers and financing of a redevelopment commission to be consummate with the sale of property to be at market value and not over and above that, without express permission granted by this body to do so. We took time and researched what the market value was. It's not $50,000 an acre. If people want to sell for $50,000 an acre, but God bless them, it's America. Have at it. But don't. It's not reasonable and responsible for the local jurisdiction, whether it's this body or another one, to cover the cost of the increase in land and put more money in someone's pocket. That's not what I know economic development to be. Your goal is to leverage more private sector investment in new jobs, and so writing checks for landlords and landowners is not a good way to do that. So that would normalize that process. Doesn't mean they can't ask, doesn't mean they can't ask the council, has no impact on the statutes. They are what they are. It just would be a policy that would be considered.
It's putting all the landowners on notice that we're dealing with realistic numbers of land values. We are.
If they would like to have incentives.
Right. I think that's absolutely right, because the incentive package they won't get if they don't do that. Correct?
Correct. And
that's exactly what we should have done before.
That's exactly right. I mean, this finally makes a coherent, cogent policy in place, so that rather than trooping in here asking for help when they're asking for a land price that's way out of line, this brings it in connection with market pricing, and it's a legitimate way to link your incentive policy. So,
I like it. I'll start a second motion if you want.
Was there a second, or we put it on hold?
No, there wasn't. I don't. Well,
we didn't have a second.
Doc,
you said
a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you okay with it now?
I'm okay. I remembered it now as we discussed it more, so I'm very comfortable with that.
Is there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Under new business, consideration of annual report of the LaPorte County Redevelopment Commission for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. Carl?
Mr. President, thank you, members of the commission. This is a required report that the General Assembly a number of years ago enacted, that we have summarized some of the financial activity of the commission, list the debt, as well as each of the TIF areas, what each individual parcel is. Upon your approval tonight, excerpts of this report get uploaded into the Department of Local Government Finance into their gateway website, so that some of this information is available to the public, that they can see what areas are in a TIF and which parcels. So I would just highlight for you on page 2 of the report, it does show what our tax increment was collected for the year, and for our 4 TIF areas, we did collect a total of $658,433.80.
Can you give us a second while we look?
Oh, sure.
Page, what are we?
Page 2.
But you're on page 2 of yours. Yours is.
We have a little thicker.
Yours is.
I don't know why, but
I think it should be towards the end.
I did not give you the entire copy of that report. I had thought Carl maybe might bring some copies.
Okay, I assumed the other way. I'll make sure at your next meeting you have copies of the report.
It was emailed to you, though. You had the email. I just didn't print it because there were so many pages.
I don't have my phone.
Yeah, I wasn't planning to go through page by page, but I just thought that was something.
Does this need to be approved tonight?
It does, because we need to, there's a resolution that we also need to consider. Actually, the resolution doesn't need to, but the report does need to be approved tonight, because we do need to have all this information uploaded into the gateway by April 15th.
And the report says.
It basically is a summary of your activity for the year. So it lists who the redevelopment commission members were, when your meeting dates were, what the tax increment collected was, and then we had what your outstanding debt or obligations are from each of the different allocation areas. Most of those are with the county, although we do have one bond obligation for the development that Holiday Properties did a number of years ago. And then the last section is just a listing of all the parcels. That's really the bulk of the report.
So it's an analysis of last year's action.
Exactly.
All right. What's the commission's pleasure?
Motion to approve, yeah.
Motion to approve in a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
All right.
Are you up for the next item too?
Is the resolution. This is the resolution concerning your 2020 budget year determination of tax increment for your various allocation areas. This is, again, something annually we have to say, do we have excess tax increment that can be, the incremental assessed value can be released to the other taxing units. Our analysis based on the obligations we have, not only with the existing bondholders, but also with LaPorte County, looking at your budget that you're trying to do, and also we have a proposed development, in the 421 area that we had to put on hold, that there is no surplus increment to be released. And so this resolution basically states that. We have until middle of June to submit this, but I thought since we were handling the annual report tonight, this might be a good time to go ahead and adopt this resolution, and then we'll have the president also will send letters, they'll sign letters to the county auditor and the taxing units stating basically the same thing.
Right. I mean, we all know the financial status of our TIFs. I mean, we've got a lot of projects to do without a lot of money. So
that's correct.
What's the commission's pleasure?
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Item number 12, other
Thank you,
business.
Carl.
Is there anything else?
And I take it the motion includes an adoption of the resolution that references the report. There is a resolution as part of Carl's report that needs to be approved. So
Now, that is the last page of your packet.
What?
That is the last page in your packet.
I thought that's what we just did.
What we just did.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the intent.
Yes, the other item under other business, I brought to the attention of the commission a copy of the press release that was issued by Commission President Dr. Cora. As the Redevelopment Commission is probably aware, the LaPorte County has intervened in the pending rate case in addition to attempting to moderate the rate of increase, which is going to adversely impact both residents and commercial facilities in LaPorte County. A big concern for the county commission is that if there is in fact generating capacity closed in this county, which is apparently the plan of NIPSCO to close the NIPSCO coal-fired gen station in 2028, that there be a plan to replace that capacity and build any new capacity in this county. So one of the issues that's being raised in the course of the rate case is this RFP that was done apparently in the spring of 2018. In fact, LaPorte County served a discovery request on NIPSCO earlier this week, attempting to get at more details as to that RFP process, what was involved, seeking to revisit it. Obviously, the impact of a natural gas-fired gen station at KIP would be huge. This commission knows what it would mean in terms of additional assessed value. It would mean in terms of significant jobs. Just to give you an idea of what it would mean even from a construction standpoint, when NIPSCO representatives were with county officials in March of 2018 describing the economic impact of this plant, it would have meant 240 FTE construction, 3 years to construct, 1.5 million man hours in construction. So you can imagine what that means in terms of construction trades, obviously the steel workers and good paying jobs. The assessed valuation would be significant. And so the county continues to press that issue in the rate case, and we'll keep everybody informed in terms of where that's going. But we're trying to determine what happened to that process. There was to be a selection process, a site announced in September of 2018. LaPorte County, from all indications, was strongly in the hunt for this natural gas-fired gen station, only to have NIPSCO pretty much do an about-face at the end of the year and decide that they're going to buy expensive renewables off the grid, not produced, unfortunately, in the service territory. And so that's a real concern, I think, to a number of folks. And that if there is new generating capacity located here in the service territory, located in LaPorte County. So we'll keep everybody informed in terms of how that's coming at this point.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any of the other commissioners have anything?
Not on record, no.
Hearing none? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn?
To the motion to
Say
adjourn.
aye. Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.